Well, hello guys. We have a special guest today here with us. He is Shane Lewis from Rerez. And say hi, Shane.
Hey, how are you?
So, how could you describe your show?
Well, Rerez is a show that I produce on YouTube, and I'm the creator of the show. I'm a video producer, the editor from many of the episodes, and usually, very rarely do we ever use a script, and I usually just say what I feel about the stuff we look at.
So, your work is doing videos, right?
Yeah, I'm a video editor. Most of the stuff we do on Rerez is, well, all of the stuff we do on Rerez is all about video games. So yeah, it's all video game focused.
What is the best of your work?
Uh, Sorry, I couldn't hear you again.
Like, what is the best that comes from your work?
Uh, Sorry, the best. Sorry,
Like, moments?
the best moments of your work.
Yes.
Um, well, I would say that some of the best moments I have working on Rerez is when I get people to watch the episodes I produce and really enjoy what I make and basically talk to me about it and share their comments and stuff like that.
So, what does it make you feel your work?
It's almost impossible to hear you. I think there's something wrong with your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so what emotions do your work makes you feel?
Usually when I'm editing Rerez and producing episodes, I feel pretty good about what I'm doing because I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I never really feel stressed when editing a video or anything like that. It's always just very calm. I grew up editing video in high school, and I went to school for video production. So I just feel kind of at ease with it. I know there's people out there that probably get a little stressed out when working with video content, but for me, it's like having a big puzzle that you have to put together every time you make a video, and it just kind of feels comforting when I make stuff.
So, what is your most important achievement?
I'd say the most important achievement I've ever had on Rerez was the very first time somebody subscribed to the channel that I didn't know. So it wasn't a friend or a relative or something like that. It was somebody out there. I had no idea who it was, just subscribed to the channel and started watching content, which was pretty crazy. I didn't think that would ever really happen. And it gave me a lot of hope for the future of more people finding my content and watching it.
Right. So, why is it important for you?
It's important for me to have that one achievement because it basically told me that in the future I would be getting more people paying attention to the content I was doing, and it kind of just made me feel more secure in the stuff that I was producing.
Okay, so you mentioned your family members, relatives, and friends. Did they help you achieve it?
Well, my friends and relatives that watched Rerez and subscribed in the early days, I don't want to say that their help wasn't warranted because it was good to have people subscribe at that early time, but I really believe that many of them most likely didn't watch the content I was producing, and I actually know that for a fact because I've talked to them about what I was making. The people that really did watch what I was making were the random people that found the channel, people that I didn't know, and people that really just wanted to see more content that I was producing. If a friend had subscribed, they only subscribed because they knew who I was. They didn't subscribe because they liked the content. So having somebody out there that organically found you and wanted to see more of your content was more of a lifelong viewer than somebody that just happens to be a close friend.
Was there a barrier keeping you from achieving it?
The barrier to start creating YouTube videos for me was not so much making videos, but actually being in front of camera. I was afraid to be in front of the camera. It was something I wasn't really confident in. All the training and all the work I'd done previously was in the back of the camera, whether it be camera work itself, like just videography, editing or producing, and it was not really my goal to be in front of the camera at any point. So the biggest struggle for me was becoming comfortable with being in front of the camera and actually, making videos in that style that wasn't just my voiceover.
How did you overcome those barriers?
The way I overcame those barriers, at least at the very beginning, was just forcing myself to be on camera. The first time I was on camera, I was sick, so it was kind of uphill from there. Every minute that passed, every time I would do more videos, I wouldn't hopefully be as sick as I was that first time I recorded, so it was only an uphill battle from that point. Or downhill from that point. Whatever. It got better.
So, how long does it take to make one video?
It generally varies from video to video how long it takes to make the stuff that we do. If it's a product that I'm familiar with, it's usually a lot easier for me to make a video. If it's a game I've never played before, it might take me a week to play the game in full to get a better scope and understanding of it. Or if it's just a news article or something like that I have a direct opinion about, it might only take me an hour to shoot and edit. But it really varies from project to project and video to video. But I think the longest I've ever spent on any one video would have had to have been, I think, a month and a half of work. Not consistently all the way through, but just doing tiny things here and there, simply because it was a really large video, and every minute that gets added to a video that is editing intensive can add hours to a project file.
So, you really try to be a professional with your work, right?
Yes, I always try to be a professional with all the videos I produce, simply because I was trained in video production. So I feel like if I haven't put enough effort into a video, that it probably wouldn't be worth watching, and I don't want to give anyone that has become a dedicated viewer of the channel a reason to leave.
So, how much do you like your job?
I really, really, really like being a video producer. It's something I've wanted to be for several years before I even got to school. And I always felt that my career would eventually follow a path of being on television or doing that, just working behind the scenes. I never expected to be in front of the camera at any point, so that's kind of like a turn on what I was expecting to do when I was a kid. But now that I'm here doing what I do, I kind of feel humbled to have that kind of job be successful.
So, who inspires you to make videos?
Initially, I had two inspirations, or maybe three inspirations, from my videos, from watching videos from a while back. Unfortunately, I wasn't really inspired by any one YouTuber, because when I started to get into YouTube, even though YouTube had been around for a bit, it was kind of getting more established, I watched a lot more television. So I was a big fan of Top Gear on BBC, and it's pretty much an automotive show. And what I really liked about Top Gear was that it was a show that had these three guys talking about cars, and I didn't really know that much about cars, but they made it engaging and fun to watch, which just made it so much more interesting for me, because if I could find a way to do what they did with cars with video games, I could get people to watch that didn't know about video games enjoying the content we were producing. Another person that I was greatly inspired by was Bill Nye the Science Guy, because he took really complex subjects and broke them down into very easy to understand methods, which I found to be really cool, because I didn't really know many other people that did that. And that also inspired me to take really complex types of video games and break that down to make it easier for people on YouTube to understand. And then the last person that I was really probably more heavily inspired than anyone else was Alton Brown, who is a television chef. And for me, I like cooking and I like food, like everyone else on the planet likes food, I guess. But what he did that was so different for me was he comprised what Bill Nye was doing with science, and he took that into food, and he found a way to talk about food in a much more interesting and entertaining way than I'd ever seen done previously. So what he encompassed was the same ideals that I saw from the other people that I really enjoyed, but he found a way to take something I was already passionate about and make it even more interesting, which kind of fueled me to find really rare stuff and odd stuff in video games and make videos on them. So all three of those sources is pretty much what fueled Rerez, and that's kind of where it came from.
So you try to take the entertainment aspect of those three people and compress it into your style?
Yes, pretty much. I really wanted to make an entertaining show on Rerez on YouTube, and I was always afraid of copying other YouTubers. So when I think about a year before I started Rerez, I had watched YouTube previously before that with the Angry Video Game Nerd and Pat the NES Punk and people like that, but I had never really dived in and watched tons and tons of content. And I got to a point where I was watching so much video off of YouTube that I started to get a better respect and understanding for what YouTube was all about. And to take what a lot of people were doing and just emulate them and copying them, I felt wouldn't have been smart, because if you're going to try and do something like JonTron or the Angry Video Game Nerd or the Nostalgia Critic, if you're going to try to do anything that they do, you're never going to beat them at it, because they are the best at those specific fields. So what I tried to do was be a little bit different, and with that different stuff, try and be entertaining, at least in that aspect.
Your content is great.
Thanks.
Did you ever imagine that your passion would be your work?
I never once thought that I would ever be playing video games for a living. That never, ever crossed my mind. I assumed that maybe someday I would get into game development or just advanced video production, or in some weird way in the future those things would emerge, but I never once thought that I would ever take anything that I played with video games and use that as like a piece of knowledge. For instance, when I went to school to learn techniques and skills, I learned these things because I honestly didn't know them, and school was the best way for me to kind of get access to technology and education that I simply had no other way to learn. With video games, I just assumed other people knew what I knew. If somebody were to ask me a random question about any video game, I would be able to bridge broken pieces of information in my head together to form a coherent thought. So one of the things I do when I'm talking to people on streams is that I'll tell people, just it's like a party trick. Just name a video game, and then I can just tell you the direct history of that video game, just because it's locked up there from reading about 50 video game magazines a month, and just reading all this stuff online in the early days and just cataloging that information in my head. I assume none of that would have been useful in the slightest, but because YouTube exists, there's actually a way for me to use that and make it fun for people to watch and pay attention.
So what are your most important goals for the future, and why are they important for you?
I expect that the future of video online is only going to expand from this point forward. I don't believe terrestrial broadcasting has a future. I mean, it's gonna be there. It's the tiny things that we used to have in the past that we've had for several years, I feel are starting to fade away faster than we'd ever seen before. When I was a kid, television continually growed and got more popular. Newspapers continue to get popular. But we've now entered an era of digital information where newspapers are starting to not be as profitable as they once were, or in many cases are starting to be as important as they once were, because the internet has given everyone a voice. Television would spend thousands upon thousands of dollars making massive productions that would be so hard to earn money from, and then some schmuck with a webcam would sit at home and just record themselves bitching about a movie for 30 minutes and make more viewership out of that one dumb video that he shot in his bedroom than some of these television shows would have. Just yesterday, I sat down and I watched an hour and 45-minute review of Red Letter Media's review of the new Star Wars film. That's an hour and 45 minutes. That is long. It's crazy. And they have over 500,000 views now. And that's simply something he created at home without any company involvement whatsoever. And through the power of YouTube, he's going to get some kind of ad revenue from that, maybe, or some financial response from that. And that's incredible. That's stuff that television studios were very slow to get on. And I feel that with the advent of Netflix and all these other services that have digital video productions being produced online with very little corporate involvement and control over the message of these programs, we're getting shows that are uncompromisingly good. Things like Luke Cage, which are just amazing pieces of work that talk about race and specific time periods and are just allowed to do anything without anything being held back. And I really feel like television has cuffs on it and it prevents itself from getting to that degree. So as long as we keep moving in this direction of a digital future, I really don't feel like digital video is going to go anywhere away. It's just going to keep growing and growing and possibly eclipse other media.
So you also own Rerez.net, right?
Yes, I do.
As of now, your webpage Rerez.net only redirects to your YouTube account. Do you expect to do something more with your website in the future? For example, reviews and etc. Because I have seen in your Patreon that you explained you wanted to do more with your website.
Well, I would like to use my website for something more than just redirecting to YouTube, but as it stands right now, I feel like we're getting into a spot where people are very comfortable going to certain websites, the same way that certain people just turn on a TV and just go to certain channels. They know this place. They understand it. If anything really bad happens with YouTube and it goes away, another video site will pop up and replace them. Maybe it might be Twitch, it might be Vessel, it could be Amazon Video. Anything like that could happen. And if something like that does happen, I will use my Rerez domain to facilitate moving traffic to that other spot. But honestly, unless there's some kind of need or desire for me to make a website that allows me to post content that doesn't really fit on YouTube, I really don't see myself doing anything with it in the future.
So, if you have yourself from the past 18 years ago in front of yourself and had the opportunity to talk to him, what would you say to yourself?
If I got to talk to myself 18 years ago, I would have said, start doing YouTube videos right away. I feel like I did a lot of just watching on YouTube, and I was into video production back then, but I never felt like there was a reason for me to make YouTube videos. I never felt that anyone would ever want to listen to me or just share that kind of information and be a part of a community. I just never felt like that was there. And it wasn't until I started Rerez that I started to realize that there is a larger video game community out there of people that do pay attention to that. And I think 18 years ago, if I just knew that, if I knew that the internet was going to be a larger, basically part of my life, I would have probably invested a little bit more time into understanding its fundamental cores a bit more back then.
What advice would you give for future generations?
Well, I would give, the advice I'd give to future generations would generally be to take everything you see online and treat it as something that's important to remember to some degree. There's always going to be bad information online and bad news articles and stuff like that, and just pranks and gags and things that are just going to go away and people aren't going to remember. But I think what's important is to build an identity and start to build a group of friends and things that you can hold on to, and ideas you can share with. The internet is increasingly becoming social, and it's focusing on people sharing a lot of information with each other. And I feel as we get closer to having a more worldwide view, that the internet can take this larger scope of all these events and everything and encompass it together. I feel like it's very important to kind of remember that the information that you're seeing on YouTube and the information on those other websites are basically built upon the stuff you do now. So those videos that I made in 2012 are still being viewed to this day. And if somebody really wanted to have an impact on online stuff in any regard, I would just recommend that you be a part of that news, be a part of that source, start making content and having people share your content and talk with you about stuff. Specifically if you're making videos, it's just something that I think really adds to the Zeitgeist.
Do you feel like you have a life purpose, and why?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Do you feel like you have a life purpose?
Yeah, I feel as though my purpose in life is to really just make very fun content. I really dislike a lot of content I see online where it's people that, and I don't want to say selling out, but essentially just taking these brands they built, taking their personalities and building them up, and then slapping a Coca-Cola logo on it or something like that. And I see that happen a lot. It's cool. Like I see people wearing Marvel shirts and stuff like that for certain comics and stuff. I mean, geez, I think I'm wearing a Green Lantern shirt right now, and it's fine. Like that's fine. That those are icons, identities, parts of business and stuff like that, and they're part of our culture right now. But one thing I hate is when I see people completely sell out to companies and completely lose their integrity and vision. And no matter what happens to me, I think my goal is to stay true to the very end, to not sell out, and to not take my audience for granted at any point. Because I feel if I ever just took anything that had come my way that was going to be a huge promotional deal that would give me tons of money but sell out my viewers, that I would come to regret it for the rest of my days.
What would you say is the key to success?
I would say that the key to success on YouTube, more than anything else, is consistency. If you want to be good at video production, be consistent at trying every day to make a video. If you want to be good at really anything, it's just being consistent. And especially on YouTube, if you want people to watch the content you're making, make content. You make a video, it didn't work, make another video. That video didn't work, make another video. That video didn't work, make another video. That video didn't work, make another video. That one worked. Now make another video, and that one's not going to work, but then you just keep on going. It's like you have to keep doing it no matter what. If you give up and you don't learn from what you've done, that can be a huge problem. Consistency isn't just a philosophy of uploading 1 million videos or writing 1,000 articles. Consistency is also about consistently improving on what you're doing. It's not just make 1 million videos, hope something sticks. It's okay, now how do I better that next video? How do I make that next article good? How do I improve what I had done previously? If you can't do that and you're in a constant just drag across the line where you don't go up or down, then you're not doing anything that's fun and interesting. And at the end of the day, you might as well just be working in a factory if you just don't care what you're doing.
And finally, what of all these questions did you like more?
I'd say my favorite one was that first achievement when I first had that one person pay attention to the channel that I didn't know about. I think that was my favorite question.
Well, that's all we have for today, guys. And thank you, Shane, for being here with me.
You're very welcome.
And well, that's all. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry guys for not having the best mic quality. I really need better equipment. And also, thanks for watching, and remember to check out Rerez channel, link in the description or click the annotation here.